Welcome to the Center for Transformation Institute podcast, where we are uniting with therapists everywhere for personal and professional growth. Your journey starts here at the place therapists grow.
So tell me more about what is belonging, Monica.
Okay. The word belonging is very emotional for me personally. I think that if there's any word that really hits me, it's that in terms of the life model work. I think that my whole life, maybe my why in life, is to produce belonging for myself and to help others find that place themselves. Something happened. I have 3 kids, and my oldest is 20. He'll be 21 this year. When he was in middle school, I was leading a class at church with him, and I don't remember what we were talking about, but he ended up saying something that I thought was so profound in terms of belonging. And he was in junior high, like a big junior high where, you can kind of get lost in the shuffle. And I remember him saying, when I don't have a friend, I look around for people in my class who don't have friends, and I find one and I make friends with them. And then I find another and I make friends with them, and then I make us a group. And I was like, you do? That's amazing. I was so just touched by that. And of course, that was however many years ago, right when I was learning about Life Model, and was so excited to hear that my little guy had grabbed that concept somehow. I don't know if he grabbed it from me or just from his own growth in the world, because I think we all want that, right? And it's very insightful to think about it like that. As a therapist and just as a human, I observe so much loneliness. We can be surrounded by people and still feel like we don't belong, and we don't have a place, that we're untethered, that we're flying around without a place to land, a place to call home, a place to find rest. I know Sue Johnson talks about the idea of attachment in marriage, and what that means to be attached is that I have a secure home base, a place to call home, a place where I can, where we can be there for each other. When I reach for you, that you're there. And Siegel says it doesn't have to be 100% of the time, right? It's just 50% of the time or more. It's just a consistency, that there is a home base for me. There's a place for me to go. I remember the early years of marriage when we would have an argument, going, well, at least I could go home right now. When of course we lived half the country away from my parents, so I was never able to do that. But it was a thought in my mind in those places where I was feeling detached from my husband. I have a place I could go. I have a place I could go home. I could belong there at some level. But I think for a lot of us, belonging is painful. And as I sit with clients day after day, hour after hour, I hear the desire to belong. Brene Brown talks about it too. Like, what does it mean for me to belong to somebody else? And Life Model has this concept that is based in the neuroscience, that a 2-person relationship, a dyad, is a strong belonging connection, but really the strongest bond that exists is the 3+, the family bond is what Life Model calls it. And I think of it like a tribal or a communal bond, like, who are my people? Who do I belong to? And if I know that, it dictates everything. It actually, Dr. Wilder would say that who I belong to is more important than what I believe. That is powerful. That if my people believe a certain way, I am going to go with that. Even if it goes against some of my personal thoughts and convictions, I'm more concerned about who I belong to. And that has major implications in our culture, politically, sociology-wise. It has major implications when a child, a teen, doesn't feel belonging in their home, that they then go out into culture and try to find a place to fit, a place to belong, a place to call home. So Life Model has a concept of the 5 to thrive, right? That we all need 5 things in order to thrive as humans. We need a place to belong, right? A place to give and receive life, a place to recover from our malfunctions, a place to mature, and a place to know our own hearts, right? To grow in our own identity. But that first thing is a place to belong. If we don't have that, then we can't do the other things. So it's that place of belonging, that place, that 3+ place to incubate myself. Ideally, that would be in our family of origin. And I think that as therapists, when we're working with clients, we want to see from that perspective. I know a lot of adults come into therapy like, I don't want to deal with my childhood stuff. Like, I want to deal with the here and now. Yet as a trauma therapist, and now knowing the Life Model in terms of the developmental trauma side of things, we know you can't do that. You can't just do that. You can't just move on. We have to go back in order to go forward. As Pete Scazzaro in Living in Emotionally Healthy Spirituality would say, we have to go back in order to go forward. We have to fill in those gaps, because sometimes, a lot of times, when there hasn't been belonging, the attachment, the way that client is attaching or not attaching in relationships is so detrimental and is causing the issues, the mental health issue, the addiction that they're having. If belonging isn't healed, it's going to be a problem. I think of that in terms of the 12-step community. The 12-step community is a phenomenon. I started watching Bill W.'s biography. It's on YouTube. It's just fascinating. The man who created the 12-step community was an alcoholic himself and was trying his best to get free from that addiction, and found in community how to do that. And the 12-step community is a phenomenon to me. I observe my clients who are in 12-step. I think they're some of the most mature people in our culture. And why and how? I mean, the 12 steps themselves, the actual steps, are incredible if you've ever studied them or if you're part of them. And just what you have to face as a human is such a growth process. But the belonging that people find in the 12-step community sometimes is amazing. Now, sometimes we say as therapists, all 12 steps aren't created equal, right? It's all 12-step groups. If you go to a group and you don't feel that same belonging, well, yeah, maybe that's not there with that group. But keep searching, because you will find a 12-step group where you feel that. And I think there's a neurological component that's happening in these groups where maybe there's not a mature elder in some, and there is that in others, but that group dynamic has more potential. That's the healing agent. It's the belonging that you feel with people who have gone through or going through something similar to what you're going through. It's the identity that you can gain because you feel like you matter and that you're not alone in the world. That there are people who are going to support you and be there for you, and who can identify and who aren't judging you. I heard an abuse survivor say, although they're married, children, family, friends all around, the place where I feel like I belong the most is with my survivors group. Wow. There's no judgment. I can rest. I can be myself. So belonging is powerful. And as therapists, we have to look and we say, where do I belong? Do I have places where I can fully rest in belonging? I can just be, that I feel secure attachment with these people. Do I have places where I feel like I can get to know myself, that I can become more of who I am, that people see me accurately and tenderly through the lens of my truest identity. Is if I don't have that as a therapist, I'm not going to be able to help clients find that. And I would say that it's imperative that clients find that. We, in our one-on-one therapy, it's not enough. It's not enough for clients to just have us. They need that. So we need to help them understand the importance of it, and also help to give them the skills to build that for themselves. One of the ways that we do it here at the Center for Transformation in our private practice is through groups. So we have groups. I'm running 3 groups pretty consistently throughout each season. And they're ongoing groups, and people can come in, they can bow out. But the idea is that and they're usually only the clients who I'm serving, and I pull in clients who are ready for a group, or who are in a stage in their growth process, who are ready for that. And depending on which group would maybe be the best fit for that client. And we do life model. They're life model groups. They're identity groups. We may be studying a different type of psychoeducation in that group. But I love how Ed Curry of the Life Model talks about this concept. He says it's not as much about what you're doing, it's who you're doing it with, right? It's the synergy, it's the mutual mind, it's the unity that can be formed in a people who want that. And I tell the people in the groups, this is an amazing opportunity that we're having with other people who want this as much as we want it. And that is the commonality between us, because we're all different walks of life and ages and such. But when we come into this space, we want to belong as much as the other person wants to. And we all want to figure this thing out. What does it look like to belong? And I call the groups incubators. They're teaching our brains how to do belonging, so that we can then go out and produce that in our families and in our communities. So I believe that that's one good way we can teach our clients to do it, is by having groups and encouraging clients then to go out and form, like my son said, take that one person who wants the belonging, take the other person who wants belonging, and then make us a group together so that we can form that 3+ bond and really test this thing out, figure out what does it mean and what does it feel like to truly belong, so we can fill in these gaps in our maturity and we can really change the world. I believe these are the concepts that change the world.
Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of The Place Therapists Grow. We hope you will join us next Monday. To expand your knowledge and continue your growth journey, go to cftinstitute.com and take our assessment. See you next time.